everyone. I am Raghavan, Enterprise Lead Architect with Lloyd's Technology Center. Though my role says I'm an architect, I'm part of engineering, so I will definitely show some code before we leave, because you guys have been hearing agents, AI everywhere. I just want to demystify something in this talk, like what really an agent is, what does agent contains, can I see some agents running, right? And that too, if I can make it run locally, that would be awesome, right? Otherwise, it would be just theory. I don't want to go with the session with this theory. I'll try to rush up to the slides so that I can spend some more time and do a kind of a working demo. And if the demo doesn't work, I'm going to be shamelessly telling sorry. So that's fine, right? We are all engineers, especially on a demo day, it's not going to work. Definitely show some surprise. But we'll make that happen, right? That's what, I have a recorded version, but that's a plan B. I don't want to go to plan B, but let's see, right? This is the kind of context I'm setting, right? Before even the generative AI bubbles fully done, we are already starting in another bubble of Agentic AI, right? I just want to give a pass and look back ourselves, what really is the difference? And then what is this buzz about these agents? And what are the kind of agent types do we have, and what kind of patterns? And can I apply them in a real business scenario, right? And I'm taking, being a bank, right? Hope you might have seen our stall there. We are a UK bank, but operations in GCC at Hyderabad. This is little more important because we want to handle that security, trust, and ethics and everything guarded. But this demo, I just use it as a reference demo so that just remove, unwear all those hats and just look from the agentic perspective, right? This is what I want to tell about generative AI and agentic AI, right? Generative AI just understands and generates content, right? Whereas the agentic AI understands and performs some action, correct? That's a main difference, right? And how does it really does the action is in the concept of tool calling or function calling, right? And this is going to be differing from whatever the technology that you use. For example, nowadays you might be seeing a lot of agentic frameworks. Each framework might adapt slightly in a different way. So that's not at this point a kind of a purely a standard, that a specification that we are working against, but each and every library would implement its own way, right? And you can think of that fundamentally that it's all operating around the ecosystem of your LLMs, and LLM has your brain, and again, without tools, it's nothing but just a brain, right? You can't do anything, right? Having said that context, I want to do what really an agent anatomy or what really an agent is, right? Agent consists of model, which is an LLM. It could be one or more models. And it has multiple components. And this, again, the terminology is improvising daily in our industry because last 2-3 weeks, when I was preparing for this, Google released 2 white papers. OpenAI released 2 white papers. I was telling like, okay, oh my God. But none of them are kind of aligned on the same terminology, right? So I put it in a very simple way that an agent consists of tools, planning, memory, and control logic. The reason why I'm telling is, sorry, I think this is due to the PPT2 thing, just apologies. So tools are nothing but your actions. Let's say you might have some APIs in your enterprise system, which as part of your agentic implementation, you want to call and involve them as part of your conversation. That's what the tool is. And planning, in case of agents, right, you might have multiple scenarios. You might have to coordinate and orchestrate, which means that's where the planning comes in, right? And the memory, what it learns back from whatever you are giving in so that it does not keep on doing the old thing, but improvised kind of, right? And the state and control logic, how you really do, right? Can I track my agents? What really happened? What went wrong? Kind of things, right? I'll pause here, but this is just a foundation before we really get into what really an agentic types and the agentic patterns are. But this is what one agent would contain, right? I'll give a pause here. Okay. And agent types, it's very simple, right? I can have one agent, I can have multiple agent, right? I think most of the time we tell that the more the better, but the problem is the more also brings a lot of troubles. How do I coordinate? And these are all really the programs and algorithms running, right? I would say slightly look back, go backwards and think, for your use case, do you really need whether it is a single agent or a multi-agent? And before that, I would say you want to ask the question, what is that you want to solve using agent, right? And if you think the normal thing would suffice, then you don't have to use agents, right? And being in an agent talk, you would not expect me to tell that, but that's what the reality, right? Don't complicate it, right? Let's not over-engineer anything. Already we have created enough tech debt, right? A single agent is good enough. And single agent, you might have tools, you might have prompts for the LLMs. Now, when you would slowly start switching over to multi-agent is, let's say you have a single agent, and you have, let's say, keep on your prompts going, let's say more than 10 to 12 prompts and more than 10 to 12 invocations, and you are trying to find a lot of similarities between, sorry? Okay, you are trying to find similarities between the prompt and unable to identify this, then it's time to separate. The another one from an engineering standpoint is to look from a scaling standpoint. Can I scale my agents independently, right? Because of the nature of that. So that this agent could be a part of some other workflow or some other invocations, right? That's where I think you need to start drawing the line. Like say, let me start with single agent. And then eventually once the time you start feeling that this is really going a bit non-maintainable, and I think it's time for us to split it and divide and conquer kind of things, and then make sure that you have a separation of responsibilities and all the good practices, and then move into a multi-agent, right? And multi-agent, right, you have multiple patterns, right? Whether one agent's, let's say for your business process, you have multiple agents involving. Is going to be a linear predefined path? Can it be an orchestration path? Can it be a composition path kind of thing, right? Those are all the kind of patterns that you would see. I'll just move over. So these are all the kind of multi-agent patterns, right? One is a chain linear, right? Basically, some event triggers agent A, and once agent A does the work, it automatically gives it to agent B, and then finally agent C, and then finally it ends, right? Next, the routing and predefined path. But here, the agent A talks to agent B, but again, for some reasons, it could go to agent B or it could go to agent C. So which means the agent A has some knowledge of doing that. Some of the times, this orchestration may not be really an agent. It could be just a flow and control logic alone, correct? But I'll show you a demo where I have used it. It's that orchestration flow itself is an agent to decide the next one, but we'll see that. And again, dynamic orchestration and dynamic agent decomposition. And I'll come to dynamic agent decomposition a bit. Again, orchestration is you do keep on communicating with, like, one agent selects another one and does the job and come back based on the status you want to choose something else, right? It keeps going. Again, these are all the reflection of your flow orchestration patterns, but again, putting it in an agentic AI context. One thing I want to tell in the recent times, especially around this agents, right? There is no dynamic discovery of agents standards that is happening. But the recent one, I'm not sure if you have read it, from Anthropic, it's called Model Context Protocol. And the recent one from Google is Agent-to-Agent Protocol, right? These two slightly giving an opening of, can I do a discovery of agent on the fly, right? Otherwise, it's going to be a bit static, right? Though you have a static predefined execution, but LLM deciding it's still dynamic, but those static agents are still, the paths are still static, right? One thing I want to clear off that is, how I look that is from a model context protocol standpoint, it's more of agent to tool standards, and agent to agent protocol is more of agent to agent communication standard, right? And I think there are some discussions around this. They both are same. One is a superset and another is a subset. But I look at more from that perspective, right? Dynamic agent decomposition is pretty much, I would say, both an A2A plus an MCP in combination, right? Now, what I'm going to do is, we are going to do a customer onboarding. I'm going to ask a customer to load one of his identity. Probably I'm taking my identity. Again, no PI thing, but I'm just keeping it for a demo. I'm going to extract some information from that identity and then pass it on, and then do some fraud detection using kind of a retrieval-augmented generation. and then giving handover to a CRM tool and see if it can create an account for me, right? That's a simplistic one. In our current day scenario, right, the customer onboarding takes quite a long, and this is the kind of high-level architecture I'm envisioning for this, our quick demo. I'm using Spring AI. I'm not sure how many of you are Python developer, but whenever I do a Google search around this Agentic AI and everything, mostly 90% of that would come as a Python AI framework, right? That's what makes me to create this, like, okay, can I do it with Spring AI as a Java, right? And nothing else, but again, just I'm using it Spring AI, and I'm using Spring AI as a generative AI, LLMs AI abstraction, and I build the logic of orchestration. I'll show you that. And I have 3 to 4 LLMs running. And initially, I started with OL Llama. I want to share this so that I want everything to be run in local, right? OL Llama has, again, if any of you don't know OL Llama, it's a tool which help you to run an LLM locally. Just in a brief, in a quick way, right? But I want to run multiple instances of OL Llama for each and every LLM. But again, Spring AI, I'm not finding that scope to point it to the multiple URLs, but that's fine. So I plugged in some of these commercial models with the API keys to run it, right? And again, Spring AI at this point is not purely an agentic AI framework, but it's just a abstraction framework to start with. But again, that's what it is. And for the first one, which is an image extraction agent, I use the Python teststruct OCR library, and I'm running it as a Docker container. And initially, I started with the vision model. Later, the vision model started, the outcome was not very prediction. So I tried to plug in as a tool and try to use the extracted content as a input to the LLM to structure my content. Correct? I just work around it, right? That's the first one. And the second one is around the fraud AML verification agent. I just dumped some 5 or 6 records of data into my PG vector, which is still running as a container, and trying to do a simple name match, similarity match, right? And the third one, the CRM onboarding agent, I just plugged in a Salesforce CRM API. I just created a sandbox org where I can create a new account in the CRM if provided everything is successful, right? And then finally, for summarization, again, it's a kind of a zero shot. Can you summarize everything, what happened, so that it can be feedback, right? This is the quick demo I just want to show. I'm just flipping the context to the demo. We'll come back to this. Okay. So this is the CRM, and you might see that there is nothing called as Raghavan. So just want to be very sure that you are right. So what I'm doing is, this is a simple React client application I created just to take the details. And some of the details I'm ignoring, but I'm more focusing on the identity data alone for that. And the usual Spring Boot application. If you are a Java guy, then you might be interested. So everything I just created as a LLM configurations. Pretty much I played with the multiple LLMs to get the accuracy of the output. So that's why I created multiple LLMs models. And then I created my own simple base agent like interface, and then agent request and agent response. Just to extend it, it can be an agentic framework, right? And now what I did is I created these agents. These are all the agents. As I told you, LLM will contain a prompt and your tools, right? Basically, if you look at the CRM onboarder, which implements the base agent, it contains the prompt, and it contains the respective model, and it contains the tools, right? And the planning part of it would come from this orchestrator, right? The reason why I didn't kept orchestrator as just a flow, because I want orchestrator to dynamically decide my next step. Right? Though these steps are predefined, for example, if you load this agents, but the selection is, I'm telling the agents, orchestrator to tell that these are all the available steps. You pick me based on the context what you have, rather than making it purely static, right? So this is what it is. I'm going to start this. Again, it's a demo day, so bear with me. Okay, so this is running. So let's see, I'm just, I'm just trying to see if I can extract something. So the OCR extraction is done. I'll explain once it does, right? Because otherwise it doesn't. No, sorry. I replaced OL Llama because I started with LLM model for summarization and the predictability was not there. Currently, I'm running with OpenAI and the Gemini, but you can, OL Llama also is there. I can, because for local testing, I don't want to unnecessarily burden this, so I'm. Okay, so looks like it has done, but I don't know, we'll see. So this is the overall summary it gives, right? I'm going to explain each one of the steps, but we'll see that. Before that, let's see whether it does really what it does. Okay. So it has created a CRM account, right? Now I'm going to go through the logs, and then I will correlate that with the agent code and see what and why it is selecting, right? First thing, I'm just using the tool, and it is extracting my text, and then I'm feeding to get a structured output. This is the first step. And what I'm doing is, as part of an orchestrator, whenever I take the output of the first agent, I am appending to the context because the context is growing. Otherwise, it will be, the last one will not know what the overall context is. And again, I'm just using a simple immutable Java object because already the output is there. You don't have to do change anything. So I just took a simple Java record. And the second it selected is fraud verification agent. And one thing I want agent to tell is, the orchestration agent to tell is, when you are selecting some agent, make sure that you are reasoning why you are selecting, right? Otherwise, it does what it does. We will not be able to know. And that's the reasoning part that I'm telling that, see, it has extracted successfully, indicating that we have the necessary customer information. Now it is to verify the customer details for the fraud, right? Now again, this is a little unformatted, but I wanted to do it in a way, but I think each text it's going, which is fine. And this is against the PG vector lookup for a similarity search and see whether there is any fraudulent activities done by the customer in any shape or form, right? And again, I'm just building this for summarization. And the next one is the CRM onboarding. And the LLM is going to call the CRM tool. I'm going to explain how the LLM is calling the tool in a bit. And now the tool is going to call this whole API. And then I'm getting an account ID from the Salesforce CRM, right? And once it is done, I just want to do a summarization kind of a report format. And I'm asking it to generate a HTML because my front end was a React Native, so that I can just render it for view, and it just generates, right? That's what we are doing. I just want to take a minute to explain you this. Any questions, by the way? Because I'm keep going, but yeah. Okay, currently this one does not implement any kind of a security context into the play, and only the orchestrator agent is facilitating between the agents. For example, when I'll show you that in a. Okay, so summarization is the last step within the orchestration agent, which get all the overall processing context and produce an output. The orchestration agent is, I'll just quickly go back. So this is an orchestration agent's simple prompt, right? What I'm telling is, analyze the input and choose the appropriate next step. That next step would yield in an agent, right? So for example, this, as I told you, I just used a Spring AI. It's not an Agentic AI framework. So I need to bring that Agentic AI using Spring AI with help of code. So what I'm doing is, I try to make some conventions. Let's say I make sure that the choice of step and my agent mapping are one and the same. Correct? It's a bit pretty basic stuff this here. And then now I am telling that what is the next step so that it does everything. And I can keep building this in multiple steps, and I need to have a correlated agent accordingly if anything, right? Now what I'm doing here is each and every time I'm just started running a kind of loop, whether I'm processing all the context. And now what you are going to do is each and every time when it runs the process, right? Let's say I'm calling, now I'm going to keep appending this customer onboarding context. And I'm going to keep feeding this onboarding context here. If you look at that, if you look at that, it's going to be available step on the context, and this context is keep on going increasing. For the first one, it's going to have the customer information. The second one, it's going to have the customer information and the fraud information. The third one, customer information, fraud success, and your CRM onboarding, correct? And then finally, what I'm doing here is I'm going to give this agent, let's say, based on the overall process, I'm passing that overall processing context so that it generates me a kind of a summary. That's what I'm hope I made it clear. Okay, perfect. Sorry? No, it's not a linear. There is an orchestration involved, but it's a static path, but the discovery is done dynamically by the LLM. No, agent 1 is already giving its output. The orchestrator agent is going to decide, can I, now it's, sorry. Orchestrator agent, yes, right? So it decides what is the next step. So for example, if the customer onboarding would have failed, it would have come to exit, right? So that's the kind of things it is doing, right? Back to the orchestrator, because that's a state we don't want to lose it, right? See, ideally even in your agentic frameworks, there is a state which already be carry forward across these agents, right? It's very important that you retain, because that is going to be forming the context of your prompt. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult, isn't it? Correct? I'll just quickly get into this CRM onboarder. This is an agent. See, if you look at this, the prompt is you are an agent. I'm telling them that you have an access to the tool called create account, right? Now, this is going to be giving me the benefit from the libraries like Spring AI. I'll tell you why. Just a minute. No, dynamic discovery is not there. It's a static definition. Static agents are defined, but the orchestrator agent is discovering the agent dynamically based on the context and the output of the previous agent. So if it is a dynamic discovery of agent, then I need to fall back to, let's say, A2A protocol or an MCP kind of a thing, right? Currently, it is not there, okay? Now, sorry. Based on the output from the previous agent and the context prompt that it has. The orchestration agent is having two inputs to the prompt, right? The orchestrator agent. One is the list of available steps it can choose. Second, the previous agent's output coming is a additional context to the overall prompt in order to decide the next agent. No, right? So no, right? It is not going to the agent. It is telling me what is the agent. It is deriving from that. For example, it need not even derive based on the previous context, because you have to retain the context. Otherwise, it cannot have a discovery of that. So see, currently everything is running in a simple application agent. But if you look at you just move this agent outside, then it would be really a dynamic discovery, isn't it? Yeah, I'm coming there. Okay. Yeah, currently I'm appending, right? I'm not comparing, I would say. I'm just appending and then giving it as an input to the prompt. I'll show you that. Give me. No. Currently, this does not. I have not incorporated. See, again, I am telling. So this is purely from a reference demo standpoint. Even for example, we haven't got into the security and ethics aspect of it. Like, can an agent calls with a security context another agent, right? So this. Yes. It depends upon the input because I'll quickly, I think that's where I'm coming. So this is a CRM agent. I'm telling them that you have an access to the tool called CRM, this create account. Now, again, this is going to be framework specific because each one will implement it in a different way. Since I'm using Spring AI, right, I'm just defining it as a simple Spring component, and I am telling that it's an annotated with tool, right? And then this description should match whatever I have it in the prompt, so that okay, fine, now it's time for, because Spring AI would come in the middle to do the orchestration of tooling callback stuff, so that it gets the response and then bring it back. And to your question, in a single component, you can have multiple tools based on the nature you can do, but the prompt would become complicated, but you have to define that way, right? See, again, this is a very, very bespoke implementation of it, right? But whereas if you use an agentic AI frameworks like Crew AI, LangGraph or LangChain would have been abstracted in the form of your framework. That could be easier, right? But my main intent is currently in our ecosystem, we have this whole workflow which is being running, and it takes quite a while to onboard a customer. So this is one of the visualization we have, like, can this be model? And whatever the architecture you see, it's a simplified version of the steps. We have more than 15 to 20 steps as part of an onboarding in order to really onboard a customer, right? And another thing, we also need to know that our current system, we need to know like what kind of things can be accessed or exposed via APIs as a tools, right? So that's another interesting, yeah. I'm not disappointing any Python fans. I tried everywhere, and then I find it like, why there is so much Python and why not Java? And being a Java house, we are doing heavily on microservices with Spring Boot. This caught my attention, and definitely nothing personal. And at the same time, I'm also trying with the recent Google ADK Agent Development Kit with Python. It sounds interesting, but heart little stay close to my Spring Boot. No personal. Sorry. It is kind of, but it gives you a common shared state and context and memory and so on. And it can even persist the state, right? And that's where I'm, again, when I start, I told, right, this agentic frameworks does not have a one single specification like a JTU or anything. This is how an agent framework should do or must do. Correct? So now it's like everybody is can do in the way they want to conceive the things, right? And that's where it's a very important call out for us to define a standard. And that's why you will see this MCPs, A2As coming into the play. Basically, like, standards are catching up the technology, let me put it that way, all right? And that's the kind of things that is. Okay. So AI agent consists of tools, LLMs, and so on, okay, for you to do whatever the activity that you want to do. MCP servers are nothing but you have a open standard how to expose these tools in the form of standardized protocol that can be accessed by the agent. So currently, agent is discovering using this tool description, right? Whatever you are seeing. Now this, if you notice, the tool is currently baked inside my same code. What if my tool is outside? What if my tool is remote? Which means this agentic application will behave as an MCP client, and tools will be served and do a kind of a tool discovery, like a service discovery from that, and then it invoke. That's the difference. Sorry. No, each steps are different, but these are linked by the orchestrator. No, that's what I'm telling. I'm doing the happy path. If my customer data extraction would not have successful, it would have exited. Correct? So there is someone who need to coordinate all the agents, right? So that's where I'm telling. I started this as an orchestrator, And then it turned out that I want to even do a discovery of the dynamic agent discovery from the prompt itself. That's the reason sorry. Huh? No, orchestrator response would be simple string because I'm just appending everything and do a summarization of response, which you will see in this overall onboarding. Yep. Yep. You are correct. That's the reason I tell you. See, hierarchical RAG is required in certain cases like a document analysis and other thing. You cannot. No, I don't disagree with hallucination. See, each LLM comes with hallucination. For example, when I start with this, when I use OL Llama, at some point I was not getting whatever even the basic output I could, right? And but some of the models which I used, it is getting into a predictable outcome. Let me put it that way. Yes, yes. The reason is this sits at the back office. This onboarding process triggering sits at the back office, not at the customer facing. There will be human in the loop action. That's what I'm telling. This is a pure reference demo. And see, whatever you are seeing here, let me tell you, we have almost 15 to 20 steps. Need not be. Probably we could be using just one LLM commonly. Yes. I don't disagree with that. The reason is, that's what, right? Currently, we are building on the enterprise workflow engine. It's getting very complicated, right? And we don't want to do a big bang like day one workflow stops, day two. No, that's not what we want. That's the reason I emphasize, like, start with a single agent, plug one by one process step as an agent, and then eventually you get there, right? And again, this one is some of the references which I gone through. In case if it finds you for useful, please. Okay.